G'day legends, welcome back to Behind the Crime Scene. Today we're talking about a death that shook Australia. Clare Nowland, 95 years old, a dementia patient in an aged care home, tasered by a police officer. And in 2025, that officer walks with no prison time. Is that fair? Is that broken? Or is that the law doing what the law is supposed to do? I want your verdict by the end of this video, so get ready to weigh in. If you're new here, hit subscribe to back the channel and ring the bell. We go deep on cases where the official story doesn't quite sit right, especially where uniforms and institutions are involved. Here's the scene. It's the early hours of May 17, 2023, at Yallambee Lodge in Cooma, New South Wales. Staff call for help. An elderly resident, Clare Nowland, has a small knife and is confused. Police and paramedics arrive. Within minutes, a taser is fired. Clare falls, hits her head, and dies a week later in hospital. That's the bare-bones timeline. Quick gut check for you, and I want honest answers in the comments. If that were your mum or your nan, what would you expect to happen next? Prison? A symbolic slap on the wrist? A full-blown inquiry into tactics in aged care? Fast forward. In late 2024, a jury finds Senior Constable Kristian White guilty of manslaughter. In March 2025, the judge hands down a 2-year community correction order. That's a supervised sentence in the community, plus 125 hours of community service. No prison. Then, in July 2025, prosecutors try to crank that up on appeal. And the New South Wales Court of Criminal Appeal says, in effect, the sentence is lenient, but not legally manifestly inadequate. End of the line in New South Wales. Tell me straight, if you were convicted of manslaughter, would you expect to avoid prison? Be real. Drop your answer. Now, about those crucial minutes inside Yallambee. Multiple people are in the room. Police, paramedics, aged care staff. Court reporting says the taser was deployed roughly 3 minutes after White first sighted Clare. Body-worn camera audio captures him saying, "Nah, bugger it," right before the trigger pull. That's not my phrase, that's what jurors heard. The optics of that line have done a lot of damage to public trust, and we all know why. Question for you. In an aged care setting, with a 95-year-old on a walker, what should the threshold be for a taser? Imminent danger to life, or is any blade in a confined space enough? I'm not asking as a gotcha. I want you to pick a standard and defend it in the comments. Let's talk law versus outrage. In New South Wales, manslaughter carries a maximum of 25 years. That's a ceiling, not a starting point. Judges then weigh things like how serious the conduct was, deterrence, the risk of reoffending, remorse, the context of the job. That's the framework. In this case, the sentencing judge labelled the offence at the lower end of objective seriousness, an error of judgment by a cop, not a planned attack, and landed on a community order. The appeal court agreed it was lenient, but still within discretion. You might hate it, but that is the legal logic. So here's a sharper question. Should deterrence be stronger when the offender is an armed professional? If you're trusted with force, shouldn't the bar be higher, not lower? I can already hear two camps forming. Camp A. This is a police discount. If a tradie or a pub-goer did this, they'd be locked up. The uniform saved him. Camp B. Sentencing isn't vengeance. He made a catastrophic mistake under pressure. He lost his career, he's supervised for 2 years, he owes hundreds of hours to the community. He's not a danger going forward. Prison adds heat, not light. Where are you? Be specific. If you think there's a police discount, where did it show up? In the judge's reasoning? In the appeal? In the way the law treats on-duty mistakes? If you think the sentence is fair, tell me why it still serves justice for the victim's family. Let's anchor this in the record because facts matter. The jury convicted in November 2024 after seeing CCTV and body cam. Reporting from the courtroom describes the taser being fired shortly after arrival, and yes, that bugger it line. In March 2025, the judge imposes the 2-year community order and 425 hours. In July 2025, the DPP's appeal is dismissed. The judges say lenient, but not manifestly inadequate. That phrase matters. It's a legal benchmark that basically means it's not the sentence I'd give, but it's not so wrong that we can legally smash it.
That phrase matters. It's a legal benchmark that basically means
It's not the sentence I'd give, but it's not so wrong that we can legally smash it. By the way, Claire's family have called the outcome a slap on the wrist. I don't blame them. If you think the court processes grief well, you haven't watched many sentencings. Families want meaning, not Latin. Let me put myself on the hook. Here's my take. The verdict says, you are criminally responsible. The sentence says, you made an unlawful mistake, but we're not jailing you for it. Those two ideas can coexist in our system, but together they send a confusing message to the public, especially when the victim is 95 in an aged care setting. You're telling the community, yes, it's a crime, but not the sort of crime we jail for. That lands like a contradiction. At the same time, and I'm asking you to keep both ideas in your head, prison isn't the only thing that counts as accountability. If all we want is a cell door clanging shut, we'll ignore the front-end question. Why did this happen so fast? Why did less lethal end up deadly? Tasers aren't magic, they're force. And with a frail body, the risk isn't just the current, it's the fall. That's exactly what killed Clare. If you've worked in aged care, you know one badly timed fall can be the difference between Christmas lunch and a funeral. So here's the reform challenge to the audience, especially the blokes 40+ who watch this channel. Many of you ex-military, ex-Fearies, ex-security. In a nurse's room with police, paramedics, and carers present, what should the playbook be? Time and distance? Shields and blankets? Shut the door and let trained staff de-escalate? If you are running training for first responders in aged care facilities tomorrow morning, what do you put in the slide deck? Let's also talk transparency. We've been relying on court reporting to know what's on that body cam. Should New South Wales publish body cam excerpts in cases like this, redacted where required, once the trial is done? On one hand, sunlight builds trust. On the other, it can turn tragedy into spectacle. Where do you land? Should we be able to see the decision-making we're judging? Jurors heard that "nah, bugger it" audio. We didn't. Here's the bit that often gets lost in the back and forth about sentences. The appeals court didn't say the sentence was good. They said it wasn't illegally bad. That's different. And if that difference makes you grind your teeth, good. That's the space where citizens can push for policy change. Clearer use of force rules in aged care, mandatory de-escalation and geriatric care training for cops, and a formal presumption against tasers on the elderly unless an imminent threat to life exists. If you think that goes too far, tell me what rule you'd write instead, and how you'd explain it to Clare's grandchildren. Before we close, a quick recap, and then I want your verdict. May 17, 2023. Taser fired at Yallambee. Clare falls and suffers a catastrophic head injury. May 24th. Clare dies in hospital. November 2024. Jury convicts White of manslaughter. March 2025. Judge imposes a 2-year community order and 425 hours, no prison. July 2025. Appeal dismissed. Sentence is lenient, but not manifestly inadequate. And yes, manslaughter in New South Wales can carry up to 25 years, but the law gives judges discretion, and that's what carried the day here. Now it's your turn. Don't lurk, weigh in. 1. Should tasers be presumptively off-limits in aged care unless there's an imminent threat to life? If you say no, tell me your safer alternative. If you say yes, what would you write into policy? 2. Did the uniform make a difference, consciously or not? If you think yes, point to the exact part of the court's reasoning you believe shows it. If you think no, explain why the error of judgment framing is enough. 3. If you were the judge, what sentence would you have imposed? And what principle were you trying to serve? Deterrence? Proportionality? Mercy? Say it out loud. My final word, and you're free to disagree. This wasn't a split-second alleyway fight. It was a nurse's room with a 95-year-old on a walker. I don't buy the idea that the only choices were taser now or someone dies. I think more time and more distance was owed. I think we need explicit aged care-specific use of force rules, and we need them yesterday. That doesn't make me anti-police. It makes me pro-good policing. If you wear the badge, you deserve a system that trains you to succeed in rooms like that, and holds you to it when you don't. Now, if you want more uncomfortable, fact-driven breakdowns like this, subscribe to Behind the Crime Scene. Smash the like, share this with a mate who still thinks less lethal means harmless, and drop your verdict below.
Good. So can you out mate? We're halfway, okay? 5,000 feet. Just one hard leg with the parachute up. How's your ears? Are they blocked?
Sort of, yeah.
Sort of?
Oh!
Terry, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Good.
Give us a big wave, guys.